Sit back and get comfortable. In this edition of Behind the Headlines, we're going places. Easter weekend marks the unofficial end to season. Winter visitors hit the road, leaving us locals behind. Is the spring fling a good thing or a bad thing? Well, that all depends.
There's nothing like January, February, and March. They're just incredible.
Then a journey few have traveled. Mother Teresa is on the road to sainthood. We speak with a local man who knew her well. I'm Amy Osher. Thanks for joining us. We'll also have an exclusive travel log from Cuba as our Naples news team reports on the president's historic visit, and a commentary from Alan Bartlett. That's all coming up. Welcome back to Behind the Headlines. The end is in sight if past experience holds true. Traditionally, Easter weekend marks the end of tourist season when northern visitors hightail it home. Applauded by many, it can be a bummer for business. Piping hot, made from scratch, now in 5 Southwest Florida locations.
Well, Skillets is an upscale breakfast and lunch restaurant.
Its owner takes pride in the fact his growing concept is a local product.
We say born and raised in Naples, Florida in 1995.
But Ross Edlin is not homegrown. Like many others around here, he's a transplant, coming from Chicago and deciding to stay. After several decades of business, Skillet still depends largely on visitors from the north.
We are definitely seasonal, as I think every restaurant in the area is.
Was season typically a time that you could make or break your business?
Absolutely, season was a time you could make or break your business, and to some extent it's still true.
June Fletcher is a business reporter for the Daily News.
You basically have 3 months from beginning of January to the, say, St. Patrick's Day or the end of March to make all your money.
Anytime now, money-wielding winter residents will pilgrimage home. People who fill hotels, restaurants, and social events. Their staying power crucial to the local economy.
80% of the businesses in Naples are small businesses.
Coming off his best season ever, Ross is braced for a slow summer.
We lose about 10 or 15% of our staff in the summer, and a lot of people plan to do that. They leave town and they come back in the fall again. So our help is like our customers. Some of them are just seasonal people.
Staff that sticks around may get fewer hours, but make up for it with good tips because they can afford to spend time with their customers.
Sometimes they actually enjoy it more.
With an early Easter this year, snowbirds may be slow moving, enjoying a long goodbye. But we all know when they're gone.
When the Lamborghinis and Porsches start to leave on the car carriers, that's the end of season.
A select group of movers and shakers were celebrated this week in Southwest Florida. In addition to outstanding achievements in service, they all have another thing in common: their age. Each one is past the half-century mark. The Naples Daily News accepted and reviewed nominations, coming up with the 2016 class of 25 over 50. Celebrating the years it took to create a body of work, a lifetime of achievements, the time that went into developing skills and talents. The Naples Daily News recognized the entrepreneurs, the visionaries, the early risers, the late bloomers, all part of this year's 25 over 50. Breaking it down by the numbers, the 2016 class includes 6 CEOs, 8 business owners, 1 university president, 4 attorneys, 3 former or current politicians, 5 philanthropists, 4 community activists, 17 board members, and 25 volunteers. Each one got a small token of appreciation for their work in the community, supporting children, helping the underprivileged, and preserving wildlife. You can read full bios on all 25 in this Sunday's Naples Daily News. Still to come, a window into Cuba and a commentary from Alan Bartlett. That's coming up. Times they are a-changing. For more than half a century, we've had a strained relationship with one of our nearest neighbors, but the president's visit to Cuba this week marks a new chapter. Our Naples Daily News team was there to see it firsthand. Here's more on why they went and the stories we felt you needed to see in our Editor's Corner. And our executive editor, Manny Garcia, was good enough to join us to talk about our visit to Cuba. We have a reporter and a photographer there currently, correct?
Sure, yeah. So Maria Perez, who's been to Cuba before, a tremendous correspondent, and Dorothy Edwards are there for a week. They've just actually had their visa extended. It was really important for us to follow up from last summer's trip. We've got a collaboration with the McGraw Center for Business Journalism at the City University of New York. So we're working with them, and what we've been focusing on was the growth and creation of business in Cuba. Even though there's an embargo, there's a lot of business opportunities being generated off the island. You just saw Starwood Hotels just signed on to do some hotels in partnership with the Cuban government, create a hotel chains and hotels in Cuba. But beyond that, we want to be there because this is the first U.S. president that's been in Cuba in 80 plus years through Obama's visit. And just how the dynamic is changing on the island, because anything that changes on the island will affect Florida in our region too. And so you've got all these moving parts. Again, the baseball game, just having the team from the Tampa playing against the Cuban national team. Again, something that's very rare. And on a Friday, you've got the Rolling Stones. I mean, what bigger band than the Rolling Stones playing in an open square in Havana where they expect several 100,000 people. So we're there rather than just doing the daily stories, doing more enterprise work. You're going to see in the Sunday paper today, you're going to see a story on just Cuba's a country that really outlawed religion. And we're going to have a story about, Holy Week and what it's meant for Cubans, and really well told, not just through the written word, but through the photos and the videos that Dorothy Edwards has done.
Another moment in the making for Catholics and non-Catholics alike. This past week leading into Holy Week, the Vatican announced that Pope Francis approved Mother Teresa for sainthood. This came notably fast, only 19 years after her death. The president of Ave Maria University knew her well. He was her legal counsel and her friend.
When you think about all the saints the Catholic Church has canonized, very few are within 19 years of their passing. So there seems to be an urgency on the part of the church, and it's wonderful to see Mother Teresa get this attention.
And why do you think that it happened so quickly for her?
I think the world knew she was a saint while she was alive, and when she went home to God, the whole world mourned. And so her holiness, I think, was evident. And so the fact that it only took 19 years is a testimony that there were a couple miracles that the church attested to, but also I think a general awareness in the world that she was a very holy person and deserving of this recognition by the church.
And can you talk about how she kind of transcended religion or specific religious persuasion? Because as you said, people mention Mother Teresa as just the epitome of sainthood or godliness, and it really crosses every religion.
That's right. I mean, when you think about Mother's life, it was predominantly spent in a Hindu country where the second largest religion was Muslim. So she was constantly working in an environment where her Christianity was a minority faith. But she loved them all. Hindus, Muslims, Jews, Christians, didn't matter to her. And then she opened up homes in 120 countries. When you think about a missionary order out of Calcutta with no computers, operating in all those countries, with now thousands of women, it's an extraordinary feat by a woman with a high school education who came to India at age 18 and started working with the poor of India.
And what's really special also is that you knew her not just as an acquaintance, you knew her rather well. Can you talk about how you met her and maybe how you interacted with her over the years?
Well, I had the blessing to meet her 30 years ago. I feel like now I won the lottery. At the time it was an opportunity to meet someone that I felt was living the gospel. I wasn't, so she was everything I wasn't. And I met her the week she turned 75 in Calcutta, and she came out like a schoolgirl. And she was so enthusiastic and hopeful and happy. And she told me to go see her sisters at the Home for the Dying in Calcutta, and then to say hi to her nuns in Washington, D.C. And I did both of those things, and that set into motion changes in my life, thank God. And so I kind of mark my life before Mother and after Mother, and it's pretty evenly split.
Now, some people that have such a big reach like that, an impact, are almost larger than life. On a very small, intimate basis, what is she like and how might she be different than this bigger persona that she had?
Well, I think it's important to remember that what made Mother so lovely was her humanity, how she lived. She loved life, she loved people. She loved music, she loved poetry, she liked to sing, she missed her sisters when they were away. I used to drive her up to a convent, and she'd get out of the car, and the sisters would stream out of the convent and run up to her just giddy with excitement, and Mother would grab their faces and, you know, and greet them like this, very tactile. I remember seeing her walk around the AIDS home in Washington, just from patient to patient, and how she loved them and looked deeply into their eyes like they were the only person. She suffered celebrity. She didn't want it, she didn't seek it, she accepted it. She felt that was God's will in her life, but she liked ice cream, she liked to laugh. You know, she could get upset, not the way maybe I would get upset, but you know, she was fully human, and it's what God did with her willingness to be used that changed the world.
How do you attribute, though, that she had that personal power to make you want to be different?
She brought out the best in people. She looked at you with such love and mercy, and she saw I think she looked at you the way God looks at you. You know, she was just a pure instrument. She described herself at the end of her life as a pencil in the hand of God that he wrote love letters with. And, you know, I think she saw herself just as that simple, humble pencil. So she was very empty, and because of that, God filled her up. And I think what people experienced, and I saw this over and over, when I had the privilege to travel with her and there'd be groups that she'd be meeting, people would almost faint getting around her. The experience was so transformative. And so she had an extraordinary authenticity and a kindness and a firmness that was just otherworldly. I don't know how else to describe it.
Always one to keep the conversation moving. Our own Alan Bartlett looks at road rules in this week's commentary.
As some folks prepare to leave Southwest Florida after Easter, and as locals begin making plans to head out for summer vacation, it's important to remind ourselves how the rules of the road are different in other parts of the country. Here, the right lane is designated for drivers who need to make a left-hand turn. It doesn't work that way once you get out of Southwest Florida. Right becomes right and left becomes left. And when you leave our great weather, that process known as osmosis that enables you to know which direction other drivers are going, it no longer works. To the left side of your steering wheel, the lever that goes up and down changes function once you leave Southwest Florida. While its purpose here is to hold your tennis bracelet, watch, or a pendant, once you get to other places, it begins to work as an indicator of which way you are going. Here in Southwest Florida, when another driver does something you don't like, you pick up your cell phone and you call your family or you text them and tell them, hey, it's really aggravating down here in Paradise where people don't pay attention to the road. Beware of other states where there are tougher laws against driving while digitally distracted. Please remember, there's a Southwest Florida definition for time traffic lights. Here it means the amount of time it takes to rocket from one red light to the next. Elsewhere, timing means you can go the speed limit and hit all green lights. And most important of all, other parts of the U.S. don't have the same rules as we do here in Southwest Florida to determine who has the right-of-way. Here, of course, it's the manufacturer's suggested retail price of the vehicle that determines who gets to go through the intersection first. So all the knowledge you've gained about whether a Beamer M4 convertible has the right-of-way over a Lexus ES350 coupe, based on the MSRP, that can all be tucked away until you return later this year. And we do hope everyone returns safely from their journey. Be careful out there. That's what I'm thinking. Joining the conversation at naplesnews.com.
Thanks, Alan. If you'd like to add your thoughts on this or any other topic, just drop us a line or leave a comment on Facebook. Still to come, she's a head-turner wherever she goes, a luxury car lover. This local woman always arrives in style. She tells us what fuels her driving passion in our Living Lux segment. Her cars rival those found in top collections the world over, but instead of sitting parked in a garage or museum, these beauties are rolling down the streets of Naples. We'll zoom in for a closer look in our Living Lux segment. If she's ever feeling a little blue, Liz Becton Reed simply goes for a ride in her blue car. She has half dozen to choose from, and they're always good for a pick-me-up.
I have 2 Ferraris, 458 Spiders, 2 Maserati MCs Gran Turismos. One is a collector. It is a collector, and we do not drive it. It's a centennial version of their MC model. And then I have a Phantom Rolls Royce that was custom built, which took 6 months to build, with a special color leather. And then we have this one here, which is the McLaren.
Each and every one is, you guessed it, blue. Liz wouldn't have it any other way.
I can't see another Maserati in any other color. I have friends who have white ones, I have friends who have brown ones, I have friends who have the burgundy ones, and I don't see it.
The cars are custom, unique in color and appointments. Every last stitch and detail designed by Liz. Each one a work of art, but instead of being tucked safely away in a garage, they're frequently on display on the road in Naples.
In fact, my Maserati is my work car. My Maserati MC is a work car. And I've gone through almost 2 sets of tires. The car's got 10,000 miles on it. So I ride the cars, I ride them hard.
These two are known around town?
These 2 cars are known as the twins, and we go down 3rd Street, then we go down 5th, and when we're on 5th, we might stop in and have happy hour somewhere.
The need for speed and love of luxury fuel her driving passion. Liz thinks letting the car sit idle would be cruel.
They all have personality, they all have temperament, and they all have charm, and they capture your love in a different way. And I feel love for a Maserati, and I feel a different kind of love for the Ferrari.
It's a pricey relationship, all the custom add-ons, down to the titanium tailpipes. And carbon fiber fittings add up.
It was about almost 600,000.
The McLaren is her favorite and fastest car. It tops 200 miles per hour. The centennial anniversary Maserati is extremely rare and stays close to home. Her other Maserati is the workhorse, the one she drives the most. And her Ferrari is a frequent flyer at the grocery store.
It's embarrassing to say, but I get about 8 bags of groceries in that car.
A wife and mother, she raised 5 kids before indulging in exclusive cars. Liz Becton Reed is truly one of a kind.
Not many women want to race around daily in one of these cars, and that's what I do daily.
After today, many cars in Southwest Florida will be pointing north. As we reported earlier in the show, Easter marks the unofficial end of season, so we hit the streets too, to ask you what you look forward to most after our visitors go home.
You can tell high season is over when the traffic gets much more pleasurable.
Traffic with a capital T, diminishing greatly. I like seeing everybody come down and enjoy the area, but the traffic part is the only part that really gets to me a little bit. Otherwise, I'm fine.
Less traffic, because I live here year-round.
You can get a reservation in a restaurant. That's the number one, and less traffic, of course.
Is it a little more, does that have an upside to it then because of that?
Oh, yeah, the town is ours again. We've had to give it up for 6 months, or 5 maybe, whatever, but it's so much nicer to be able to actually drive up and down the streets without having to wait 3 traffic lights to get through an intersection.
And the restaurant's big too.
The restaurants is a biggie. Went to one restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and the car hike asked if I had reservations. I said no. He said, well, the fire department's not letting any more in. They've reached capacity.
Getting into a restaurant without waiting up to an hour is an end-of-season perk we can all relate to. And there's one local favorite you might want to give a try. They've made it even easier by moving into a new, bigger space. Our In the Know columnist Tim Ayton has more.
If you haven't been to the Crust Pizza lately, you haven't been to the Crust. Last week, they closed this original location, which they've operated since June 2014 in the Pavilion Shopping Center on the northwest corner of US 41 and Vanderbilt Beach Road in North Naples. Now the Crust is open in their new home next to Longhorn Steakhouse on the southeast corner of US 41 and Vanderbilt Beach Road. You probably know it as the former home of Hops, Big Al's, and Tavern West. The Crust's new space is 4 times as large as the old one, which is a good thing considering that often during season, waits for pizza were more than an hour long. The Crust now uses pizza ovens with a new conveyor system that cuts preparation time for its cracker-thin party-cut pizza from more than 12 minutes to less than 8 minutes per pizza. The pizza, of course, is still made with the same addicting recipe. Despite less time for preparation in a new location that doubles seats from 100 to 200, don't be surprised to still encounter waits for dinner at the Crust, especially if arriving after 5:30 p.m. in season. Waits approached an hour and a half on a recent Tuesday night, which usually is one of the slowest nights for many restaurants. For In the Know column archives, go to naplesnews.com/intheknow.
Speaking of going places, a young girl from Collier County has her sights set on moving up to the top of her sport, a rough and tumble one at that. As an accomplished barrel racer, 17-year-old Michaela Anderson is an adrenaline junkie, used to getting knocked down, but what makes her successful is getting back up again and staying the course. Michaela is chasing a dream, hoping one day to compete with the top 15 women barrel racers in the country at the most elite rodeos. A junior in high school, she's been working on it since she was 10. The sport requires competitors to quickly race around a cloverleaf pattern of barrels in a matter of seconds on the back of a 1,000-pound animal.
You only have like 15, 16 seconds to show what you have and like what you've been working on all week. And that kind of stuff is just the bond that you have to have with the horse and the rider. To me, it's just something that's so beautiful, and without it, I don't think you'll really accomplish what you want without that.
Michaela is competing in the Collier County Fair, which ends today. That's a wrap for this edition of Behind the Headlines. Happy holidays, safe travels, or just enjoy the rest of your Sunday. You can rewatch or share this show by going to naplesnews.com or liking us on Facebook. I'm Amy Osher. See you back here next week.